Hey, two. Hey, one. Hey, two. Hey, three. Hey, four. Hey. Ho. Hey. Ho. Hey. Ho. Hey. Ho. Everybody get up. Ho. Hey. Ho. Hey. Ho. Hey. Ho. Everybody get up.
How you doing, Miss LaDios?
Good to see you. Happy LaDios month. It is my birthday month.
She's a Pisces, yo.
Yayers.
Yeah.
Today is a good day. Today is a good day.
Yes. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Actors from the Dark Side. I'm Rav'n Moon, an actor with passion.
And I'm LaDios Muhammad, an actor with purpose.
Yes. What are we doing today, LaDios? I'm excited.
Oh man, we're gonna do a movie review, compare and contrast of the two great movies, the U.S. versus Billie Jean. Or Billie Holiday.
Mm-hmm.
Billie Jean.
Not my lover.
The United States versus Billie Holiday and Lady Sings the Blues.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is exciting. Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I watched the new version Thursday night and super emotional, and then watched the next version last night and super emotional.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna, before we get started, let you know it is a spoiler alert. So if you have not watched this film, stop right here.
Yeah, go watch
All
the
right.
movie.
So we're gonna go down with the cast from the first movie of the United States versus Billie Holiday, and let's talk about the cast. Go ahead and hit that one up for us.
Our first actor is Andra Day. She played Billie Holiday. She also won a 2021 Golden Globe for Best Actress, which I think is very well deserved.
Yeah.
She's an R&B singer, actress, and songwriter. Her film credits include Marshall, where she was a nightclub singer, and Cars 3, where she played Sweet Tea.
Yay, ha-ha. And then we had, oh my God, Trevante Rhodes. Now, he plays Jimmy Fletcher in the movie, and he was also known in that he played in Moonlight. That was a 2017 one. He won a Black Reels Award for Outstanding Breakthrough Performance for a Male.
Yes.
Some of his film credits, and he has quite a few, are Moonlight, where he's known as the character Sharon, a.k.a. Black, the Predator, Nebraska Williams, in The Bird Box, which I really enjoyed. I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't seen that one. That sounds good.
He played Tom. I think that's one with Sandra Bullock.
Huh.
The Bird Box.
I'm going to have to check that out.
It's kind of slow. It took me a minute, but it was all in all worth it.
Okay,
so, yeah.
Interesting. He's definitely a standout actor, so I want to see what he's in, so that's for sure.
Right.
Garrett Hedlund, he plays the commissioner. His film credits include Mudbound, where he played James McKellen, Dreamland, where he was Perry Montoy, and Triple Frontier, where he played Benny Miller.
Right. Yeah. And then we have Tyler James Williams, who plays Lester Young. He received in Detroit, the movie. He received a 2018 won an NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Independent Motion Picture. Now, he is known for Everybody Hates Chris, though, playing Chris, of course.
Yes.
Whiskey Cavalier, Edgar Standish, and Dear White People playing Carson Rhodes. I was really happy to see him in this movie. One thing, and I'll mention it when we get on the age range of the characters that they put in, it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, sure, for sure. The supporting cast, we'll just highlight a couple of great supporting cast members. We had Leslie Jordan, who's in TV and film, played Reginald Lord Devine. Melvin Gregg, he's also in TV and film. He played in Joe Guy, I'm so sorry. Natasha Lion, is that it?
I think it's...
or Lion?
It looks like Lion.
Yeah, Natasha Lion. She's also, you know her from TV and film. She was Tallulah Bankhead.
Yeah.
Then there was Evan Ross. He was also in Joe Guy. Eric LaRae Harvey. You'd know him as Monroe. Rob Morgan, he played Louis McKay. And Miss Lawrence, she played Miss Spready.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And I might have confused some characters with Evan Ross and Melvin Gregg.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I did there.
Okay.
Anyway, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. Anyhow, but I highlighted a couple of ones because Natasha Lion,
Yeah.
Lion, she's known for Orange is the New Black, and it was
Yes,
really
yes,
nice
it's
to
nice
see her in a very good, solid role. And as I was looking at her credits, she's been in the game.
She's a child star.
Yeah,
did you know that? She's been acting since she was about 12.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that,
Yeah.
but she's been in the game for a minute.
Yeah, absolutely she has.
And her playing Tallulah Bankhead, which we'll cover, that was interesting because I did a little bit of research on that as well.
Okay.
Evan Ross, of course, you know that's Diana Ross's son.
Okay.
So that's a big, and then Rob Morgan, who plays Louis McKay. So I highlighted him for a specific reason, and we'll come to that and circle back as we start to go down and discuss the film. So before not giving a grade or anything, what did you think of the film?
I loved it. I loved it was much more let's see, maybe gritty and true to life depiction of Billie Holiday's life and that time period. So I really enjoyed that. I liked the fact that they were willing to go there in terms of certain scenes, the lynchings, the drug abuse, the beatings. It was definitely gritty, but it made you think. It gave you reason as to why. I explained this to someone earlier that they did a great job of explaining Billie Holiday's trauma.
Right.
It's so that you understood her and could relate to her. So I really enjoyed that. How about you?
Okay, so first of all, I seen Lady Sings the Blues long time ago, and I was excited to see this. Love the film. I loved it. This had so many emotions for me on so many different levels. This version really brought out the advocacy of Billie Holiday that they failed to mention in the first film of Lady Sings the Blues. And I say that because a lot of times people don't know that Billie Holiday was a big advocacy for human rights, and that I thought they focused on this in a nice perspective way to point that out versus her drug use.
Yeah.
Even though her drug use was prevalent, she was definitely an advocate. I've seen a lot of the pain that she went through, and the reason I had mentioned Tallulah Bankhead when they were together going into the hotel, I thought that was interesting because I've seen the advocacy and the allyship where she says, hey, I'll go through the service elevator with you. Yeah. But the pain of just like, I'm a Black woman who cannot be myself, who cannot sing my words. I have expression. I have everything. Oh my God. It was just, I literally was in tears through the whole movie. I loved it. There's just so many levels and so many things that they said that just tore up my heart. Like when she was coming out of jail and they were saying, hey, the reporter was like, you should be ashamed of yourself. You should be like Ella Fitzgerald and Marian Anderson. And she goes, I don't need jail time. I need help. Yeah. And everybody around her was so unhealthy. Well, they were unhealthy.
Well, one of the great quotes is, when the officer, figures out that he's on the wrong side, and he says this whole war on drugs is just a war on Black people. And Commissioner Enslinger was the head of making marijuana illegal, launching the drug war with Nixon. Like, this guy was just really a prejudiced asshole and found that his role as the Drug Enforcement Agency commissioner, that he could really, keep a whole people locked down and under genocide with this false claim of a drug problem. And it's very funny because we're right in the same boat today, and now, it's like, because there's so few Black people, we're looking at the opioid addiction crisis differently. Now we're looking at these things differently. And now it's like, oh, well, we should be helping and we should be saving people's lives and all these other things. But, go forward, go backwards, the way that we handled people was rather callous and, shameful, really, on the other end, right? Yeah. That we castigated so much shame on these people that were struggling and trying to get by. And, again, there's somebody else that makes a claim, like, she's not hurting anybody but her damn self. Like, why are you guys coming down on her so damn hard? Like, at the end of the day, she's in so much pain, and that's the only way that she knows how to handle it, really. And yet we want to sit back as a society and throw shade and look down on people that really are hurting, and that's all that there is to it. So,
yeah, and the pain really derived from I love, and we'll talk about the concept of how they approached it in Ladies Sing the Blues, but the pain, and I want to make sure my minds don't get crossed with these movies. But her growing up in this particular version, she was growing up in a brothel with her mom, right? Her mom was a prostitute, and then what is she, like 14? Then she
she was 10 when she first got raped.
Okay.
In real life, and in the brothel, like that.
Well, I'm just talking about the movie, and it's
but I think she was 10. Still,
okay,
they made reference to her being 10 years old when she got her virginity taken away from her.
Yeah, and so her mom sends her to go live with someone. They don't say who, but of course that was her, introduction into prostitution. And what I found is that she didn't care that her mom was a prostitute, because she just wanted to be with her mom. So she doesn't.
Yeah, she doesn't leave. She doesn't leave. She stays at the brothel and has to go and put in work, because that was the proposition that her mom gave her. You either start working or you go and stay with this other person. I gave you some other person that you can go stay with.
Yeah, and then so like that. What bothered me was that big disconnect. Like, what happened here? Like, do you not see your daughter's only 10? And so that was very disturbing to me, how they set that up, but it was very, like you said, it was very gritty to make it go along with that real darkness of that.
And it's one of the things that we do in this country, right? We whitewash things, right? And we make things a lot better than they appear. I remember reading an article, and this was years ago, this is kind of an aside, but it was a Washington Post article, and they were saying, are things better now than they were back then? And what they used for an example was some little girl's diary from Kentucky back in the late 1800s, and she was being raped by her dad, and she was all of like 11 years old, and like she had no recourse. They lived in the back country. There was no one she could tell. There was no one that, and at the end of the day, things have gotten better because people are aware and people are watching, and there are outlets and you can say things. So going back to that time period, if she got turned out at 10, I can only imagine the mother probably got turned out much earlier. And when you get that kind of trauma, you look at everybody else like, well, what the fuck? I went through it, so fuck you, get over it. So I think that's the kind of repeated breakdown cycle, right? When trauma happens and doesn't get corrected, you end up just giving it to the next generation and the next generation, and sometimes it just keeps getting worse until you have that thing. So that
they didn't have a lot of outlets for their trauma. It was just, that's the way it is. Someone's getting molested, and trust me, I know the story. That someone's got molested. I was molested. I never told until I was like in my 30s or late 20s or something. But it's like, why do we have these secrets, and why was it that way? I know there was poverty back then, but it was just the internal struggle that she had, just trying to be a Black woman and create her art and just say her piece. And I thought it was just, but I kept thinking, I seen Ladies Sing the Blues, so my main thing was, when is she going to see that hanging corpse? When is she going to see that guy hanging, so she can see strange fruit? And when they did that scene they did it pretty good, where she has to go to the bathroom, they're on the bus, and she's like, I got to go to the bathroom, and then she sees them, the hanging corpse. And how they filmed cinematography-wise of her going through all of these sections in the house, and she's screaming and she's crying. That to me was like amazing, amazing directing. And I knew what they were going to do. Even though it was already, I knew when they get to the last door, she's going to be on stage singing that song. And I kept saying, when is she going to sing this song? When is she going to sing this song? Because it's all about her advocacy, which is why I like that film, because this film reminded me of Monique, the comedian actor. Okay, so as for some of y'all who may know, Monique was blacklisted years ago. She's back on the game right now, but she was blacklisted for 3 years. She went down for 3 years for speaking against, by the way, Lee Daniels, Tyler Perry, and Oprah Winfrey. And one thing I loved about Monique is she never backed down. And so as I'm watching this beautiful actress play Billie Holiday, what's her name, Andra Day, she stood on her ground, but she was struggling to actually sing that song. versus knowing it was in her heart. And it's so funny because everybody wanted to hear that song, her advocacy about what was right. And she kept standing. And it wasn't until she had to be reminded that we are in a war with racism. I'm going to sing this song. And it was profound. And it just made me think about our voices as Black women. Are we really truly being heard? And,
Well,
yeah.
Oh, and I'm sorry. I felt like she actually was in it from the beginning, that it was her husband's, that it was always these guys that she was screwing around with that were feeding her heroin, taking money from whoever these white business owners were, whoever they were. You don't really get a clear sense of who that one white guy is that's kind of willing and dealing and stop playing the song. And there's people up top that don't want you to play the song. And she's like, ooh, who are these damn people, you know? But yeah, it seemed to me that she always got with these assholes that were trying to control her. But she always knew. She always knew that song was friggin' important. That what was going on to us was important. And that scene that you were talking about, because it also coincided with Jimmy Fletcher taking his first dose of heroin. And then she goes through the brothel and goes through the lynching and all of that. And it really was just so heart-wrenching, but the cinematography, the costuming even, that dress that she was wearing, oh my God, amazing. It was just glamorous. So well thought out, just so well done. And like you said, you are waiting for that moment, but they brought it to you right at the perfect time. They brought it to you right when you needed it, right when it needed to wrap everything up, and right when you had that total understanding of who this woman was, what she was going through, what her pain was. And then you get to realize what, as a people, our pain is. Because that's so much of what Strange Fruit is, you know, that people could be so cruel, so heartless, to just hang bodies left and right. And if you go into the deep south and some, you know, going prior to 100 years prior to when this was happening, goddamn, it was horrible. They had places called Nigger's Head Point in South Carolina where, you know, they had picks with black heads on them just so you knew where you were going. So just the cruelty and the malice and the inopportunity that was afforded to the Black race here in America. It's tragedy, and it's really nice that we're in a cinematic time right now where we can open people's eyes. You don't have to hold back. You don't have to, you know, because there were some scenes that were hard to watch. I mean, even her being naked at one point, and I know they were really deep on heroin, but that was like, it was gritty. Like, it was
Fun
real.
fact about that scene, that really truly did happen in real life.
Interesting.
So when he set her up, he did set her up in real life and to come in that scene. And she did literally strip down. That's in her biography. So that was that was a fun fact that really did happen. And that was interesting because, again, the parallelism with the original version versus the new one. I was like, the authenticity. Now, one thing, and this is why I did highlight the guy who's playing her husband in here. And that would be Rob Morgan, who plays Louis McKay. So all the husbands in here were true to form in real life. All of her husbands were crappy. So and now here's a breakdown, and I'll bring this back again when we talk about Lady Sings the Blues. What I loved is they made Louis Kay really the demonic person he was. They made all her husbands. They were all unhealthy relationships. That was good. What I did even love more, and thank you for this, Lee Daniels, is when Jimmy Fletcher comes into, and she's like, I don't know why you're here. I know you went to go talk to your FBI agent to tell him all about me. She gets on the bed. She puts her ass up in the air so he can get ready to screw her. And he starts screwing her, and then he's like, no, I don't want this. I don't want this. And he makes love to her. And this to me was a powerful scene because we need to change that dynamic that Black women always have to have their face down and ass up in the air. And they showed a beautiful lovemaking scene with her and Jimmy Fletcher showing that love that he was, you know, that they don't present this on the screen. The sad part about it is the damage that she had emotionally and for self-love wise was so bad that she couldn't actually accept someone to truly love her for who she is And she ended up like dissing her and her whole band for the most part while they were stranded on the side of the wall. Says, "Hey, you're a church boy. I'm a bad girl." And I just don't. I'm not used to this. And that's a thing as I can say as a Black woman that Black women struggle for a lot. That we're so used to just getting the downright no good jerks who treat us bad because that's what we're used to. And then when something good comes along, because it's not in a certain package, that we don't even know how to receive it.
It goes back to the inopportunity, right? Like, back in the 20s, what were your options as a Black woman? A housekeeper or a hoe? Really? And if you were pretty, you're going to make a whole lot more money being a hoe. And, so it's just... Again, it's trauma. It's just repeated trauma, not being able to love. It takes me back to a scene in, God dang it, was it Roots? Oh man, I can't remember. It was one of my old slave movies, and the guy goes and lays down in the slave pen, and there's all these people around him, and this really pretty woman just comes up to him and starts breathing heavy and starts, kind of grinding against him, and it's just a depiction of trauma. And I get a lot of slack because, I want women to want that, not to be, to want the love, not to just, I want face down, ass up, fuck me, but to want love, to want care, to want to be taken care of, not to be treated like a thing. And if you know your history, you know why you don't want to be treated like a fucking thing, But yeah, that's one of the things where people do
I think
kind of get misconstrued maybe, but it's a lot of trauma in this country.
I just wanted to kind of elaborate because you said that was the only option is to be a housekeeper or a hoe.
Not the only, but it's like 1920s America, you weren't going to be a doctor. You couldn't be as a Black woman. And yeah, maybe you could get a jazz club, but you weren't going to be able to use the bathroom with all the other people because there was segregation and there were actual barriers to advancement that are not there now, and they're there, but not like that, where it was actually against the law to do certain things.
I do believe that there was a lot of not as much strong opportunities for Black women because we were Black and we were women. So that's two strikes against us. But I think the problem is not that there wasn't opportunities that you can either be a housekeeper or a hoe. Okay. I don't believe that. I believe that the mindset of the environment that you're in creates what you can become. Because people were on silent films in the 20s and the 30s, and they were models, and there's several, and they did become doctors and lawyers and scientists. They weren't as prevalent, and they did become activists. But I think when you're growing up in a brothel and that woman was talking to her crazy, like she just forgot she had this child that fell out of her ass, and she nurtured it. So if you're in an environment that's not, and you're not outside your own backyard, then you're not going to see anything. You got to remember, she got to travel around the world. Okay. She did take that opportunity. And especially when you go back to Lady Sings the Blues, we'll come back to that. She's like, I don't want to be a whore anymore. At somewhere, she's seen an opportunity for her to better herself, to become something more. She wanted something more. She didn't want to be a failure. She wanted to be something. And she found out that she always knew that she can sing. So she took that opportunity. But again, if we're in an environment that doesn't project positive images, again, hence why I talked about that lovemaking scene. I want to see more lovemaking scenes with my Black counterparts making love to me. And it's not just every time I turn around, they're fucking me from behind, or that is the projections that we're getting on screen. And so that to me, that scene was so beautiful and it was so loving. I was like, okay, Lee Daniel, I got to give you a clap. Because I have not seen that much. I'm not saying it's not out there. I just haven't seen it much. And so when we change our lenses outside of our own backyards, we can see what the opportunities are. And I felt like for someone to come in and do the advocacy, fun fact, Lady Sings the Blues. I'm sorry. Let me come back to the fun fact. But it was about how she came up with Strange Fruit. It was actually a professor, a writer and author who wrote a book called Bitter Fruit. And he wrote a poem about it, and that's how she read it. And it was based off of a photograph of someone hanging, and that's how she became. She wrote Strange Fruit. So I thought that was an interesting concept. So for her to have known that means she had some type of vision of education that she can be outside of what she was accustomed to.
I was always told that somebody else actually wrote all of the. But I don't know. I don't know. I think I'm confused on that.
Oh, you mean right? I didn't say she wrote it. I'm just
No,
saying,
yeah, whoever wrote Strange Fruit, that there was somebody else that wrote it, and then she made sure to perform it. But yeah, but the other thing that's interesting, well, we're not going to jump ahead to that.
Yeah.
But, you know, Strange Fruit isn't something that you get to hear all the time. So it was nice in this movie that they did finally do it. The way that they did it was very classy and beautiful toward the end. Was that the same time when they were in South Carolina and she got arrested again for performing?
What was the time?
The end, at the end when she sings it? Or am I thinking about earlier in the movie?
Are you talking about Lady Sing the Blues?
No, I'm talking about the first one.
So,
United States.
I believe is that when she performed in
yeah, it might have been Carnegie Hall.
I think she performed it at Carnegie Hall, and I think it wasn't her last time, but the song ended up being sold over 1 million. Sold over 1 million records.
Oh yeah.
And so it's so it's kind of a little bit convoluted because again, watching one film and another film, the endings are two different endings. Yeah, two different powerful endings. So I was trying to correlate like what was happening. One of the things I liked about this is that the struggles that they talked about, but then her going in and out of jail and how she kept being persistent of who she was going to be, this activist. And just to answer your question, Strange Fruit it was inspired by Abel Mirapol, a teacher and a social activist who wrote a poem called Bitter Fruit. Okay. And he had seen, it was inspired because he seen a lynching and he wrote Bitter Fruit, and then it came to Billie Holiday and she wrote, or they created, however the song, it was created from that poem. That's how Strange Fruit came about. But the timelines are a little bit, because in Lady Sings the Blues, her whole objective was to get to Carnegie Hall, because you got to remember when she first got arrested and did her prison, which they set her up. They said she was supposed to get help. Yeah. She got 1 year and a day in there. And so, of course, now she has a felony. So they revoked her cabaret card. So again, that was like that was the section that made me think about Monique, how they excommunicated her, blacklisted her in Hollywood because she was speaking out. And then so they couldn't find anything on her, but because she was influential, as you can see, she can perform for black and white audiences, and everybody loved that song, so they had to find something to put on her, which I just wasn't grasping. I can't understand what do you mean? Why was they attacking her so much? I mean, it's the same. Well, she wouldn't shut up. Again, talking about this song that's talking about lynching, and lynching was going on crazy in the 1920s and 1930s and 1940s. I mean, if you were loitering, you could get lynched. Just being in the wrong fucking county at the wrong fucking time, you were gone, and that fear, it's fucking traumatic to even live life like that. My dad might die tomorrow because he friggin' jaywalked or something like that. So it was just terror. It's just, kind of white terror, if you will, to hold a class of people down with jail and things like that. And jail's the best way to cut off access and blacklist somebody, because once you do have that felony, well, now you can't get any social assistance, you can't get any housing, can't get a job, so I mean, it's the best way to put somebody in line. So that's why they made her she was almost like Judas and the Black Messiah, public enemy number one. And they went after her, with full gusto, and it was all just because she wouldn't shut up. And I think they even say at one point, why can't you be like Ella? Why can't you be like these other artists that are more concerned about just making their money and everything else? But this meant something to her. And what was going on, and I think personally, it's her pain and trauma that kept her so
in the fight for the advocacy because she knew that pain firsthand. She lived that pain and was trying to drown it every day with heroin and needles and men. And so, I think she was also probably at a place where it was like, what you guys consider important, Carnegie Hall and all of these things, that's not really that important to me. I'd rather make a statement and make a change, and that'll make my life worth something. So, in that regard, Billie Holiday is just
amazing.
An iconic female, a hero to us all. Like, I mean, gosh, and it's just so sad that her history is so tragic and that there are these things that have probably kept her from being the revered star that she should be because our government and our politicians decided to discredit her. So yeah.
I concur with that. And that's one thing I specifically love this movie is because it did show a different form of her advocacy.
Yeah.
A different form of her voice as a Black woman. Even though she had those struggles, with her addiction, she still, I can honestly say for someone who was an addict, she still was speaking out. Whereas, all the others who were all in it for the money and it's a complacent thing. And Monique said something very powerful. She said, because she was having a interview with her husband and Claudia Jordan about her being blacklisted. She said, Tyler Perry offered me $500,000 to make everything go away. And Claudia Jordan said, I'll take the money. She said, all money ain't good money. She said, when you are chasing money, when you operate from a space of fear and not love, she said, what happens is the enemy, they know that they can control you by taking your house, your car, your mortgage and everything because you are chasing that money. She said, but when you operate from truth, she said, I can remember when I used to work at what did she say? Church's Chicken.
Okay.
She said, so I'm not afraid to do that again. And so she, it took her 3 years because she was excommunicated. And that's what I love about, even though she had, about Billie Holiday, even though she had an addiction, she was operating from her truth. And I love this movie because they totally gave a whole another perception of who she was as an individual and her struggles to us for humanity.
Yeah,
I love that.
And it was really great to the way that they delved into Jimmy Fletcher's character, and that was kind of his awakening and all of that because he was being controlled. Like you said, when they know that there's something you're after, that there's some, you get to be top up, you get to be the first Black FBI, dangle carrot, here it is, how many hoops are you going to jump through and how high? And so seeing his kind of awakening through that and realizing I'm on the wrong side. Oh, fuck, I am hurting my people. I am hurting this woman that I admire and love. So I really loved all of the different angles that they brought to it because, the characters all had so much depth.
They did.
And Andra Day, like I was just saying earlier, like there wasn't a minute that I didn't believe her. There wasn't a minute that I didn't I just connected with her so much, and she just fucking stellar work. I'm sorry. That was her voice, so good.
Her cheekbones, everything about her was realistic and for me, I love the film. I'll give my rating after we do the comparison, but I love the film. I love the whole perception of the film. It was great. And I'm with you 100% on that. I love that they made everything real about her husbands. That was a surprise. I did say Jimmy Fletcher, and they probably alluded to it at the end, or I could have been reading. I do a lot of research, but she wrote, Billie Holiday did an autobiography, and they don't know if there really was a romantic interest, but they said he did not follow her on tour around the world, but he spent a lot of time with her. And he may have experience doing some drugs there because when people went undercover, they did those things. So, I love that intimacy that they said, whether it's fiction or not, it made the play. There was no loopholes. It all was, relative. But moving on to one of my favorite movies, or unless you had some closing remarks with that.
No, good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lady Sings the Blues, 1970. Okay, I am such a hardcore Diana Ross fan. I love Diana Ross. I mean, like, she was the epitome
Opposite alert. Just kidding.
She was the epitome of beauty, poise, and grace. And I love the fact that she is a phenomenal businesswoman. Now, her tactics weren't always right, but this woman was amazing. I'm going to lead off with some of the characters that were in the movie in 1972. Lady Sings the Blues, about Billie Holiday. It was directed by Sidney J. Furie. So she was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress in 1973. She, in my personal opinion, was snubbed because that work was bomb. She won the Golden Globes. She won Golden Globes also that year for the Most Promising Newcomer Female in 1973. Now, if you look up her resume of accolades, awards, and nominations, oh my God, this woman has won awards from the NAACP Awards, Billboard Awards, Lifetime Achievement Awards, Soul Train, Grammy Music Awards, Hollywood Walk of Fame, and she's in the Guinness Book of World Records. And there was just so many that I could name, and she's a singer and an actor. And then
we have Billy D. Williams. Billy D. Louis McKay. His honors and awards include the NAACP Image Awards, TV Land Awards, Black Reel Awards, Hollywood Walk of Fame. He's well known for Lando Calrissian in the Star Wars saga. He was considered the Black Clark Gable, at least when I was growing up, I remember that. He has written some books, PSI/Net and Just in Time. Back in 2001 and 1999.
Yeah. And I think those books were about how the government is snooping on Americans.
Funny.
So that was like really interesting. I know he was a novelist. Richard Pryor. Oh my God. Okay. So he was the piano man, which was, I guess that would be kind of Joe in the movie. That would have been Joe, the one she was doing drugs with all the time. And he says, Billy, Billy, I'm tired of going to jail and getting arrested. So I think that was even though he wasn't, I think that was
He was comic relief in this movie, whereas there was no comic relief in
so he won a 1973 Emmy, and I did not know that he won 5 Grammys every year beginning from 1974 to 1982.
Oh, yeah.
A comedian, TV, film actor. He was pretty big in all of the films in the 70s and the 80s.
And then we have Paul Hampton. He played Harry. He's a actor, singer, lyricist, and writer.
So from going down all the way from starting from Richard Pryor, all those actors are deceased except for Diana Ross and Billy D. Williams. Then there was James Callahan, who plays Reg Hanley, and he's a film and TV actor.
And then there was Sid Melton, who played Jerry, and he's also an actor.
And then these faces are really known. So I'm gonna let you start because I get a feeling that you're feeling this movie.
Well, it's also like a disconnect because I never saw it.
Okay.
So I grew up without this movie in my life. So, so going back after seeing such a cinematic like powerhouse, it's like, oh, I'm back in the 70s. Oh, okay. So that's where it was kind of hard. And then it was because it was the 70s, it was whitewashed. So, it's like you went from this very hard, gritty telling to this very kind of sweet, even like the brothel scene. It was an encouraging hoe house. They were going to let that man sleep with some young girl, they were protecting her. So those kind of things, they were quaint, but it made me go, oh, this is trite because it's not real. You know what I'm saying? Now, I think I might have had a very different depiction of it if I would have seen it like the same time that I saw The Wiz or something like that. Like I was 6 or 7. I was like 6 or 7 when I saw The Wiz, and I love The Wiz, but this movie actually just kind of went past my radar. And kind of going back, it was kind of like, oh, this is kind of hard. Because, again, what we bring cinematically to films nowadays, I mean, from the music to the costumes and then the clear production and it's just, you're in another world, and they just didn't have that capability in the 1970s. So it was a little bit harder for me to I wish I would have just watched it first. Then it would have, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, they're not sure. And so that's where I came with a lot of it. So I don't want to be too critical because I mean, it was fantastic to see Billy D. Oh my gosh, the guy that played Doc Halloran in The Shining, he's young in this, kind of younger, and he's playing Big Ben, and he has a really funny scene. So it was really refreshing scene just to see, and Richard Pryor, of course, you know, and he was in his prime. So that was fun to go back, you know, in that way. So yeah.
I totally respect the disconnect, because when you see that one first and then you see that one second, it throws you off.
Yeah, totally.
I'm coming from a perspective. I've seen that movie several times. I haven't seen it in some years. Since I watched it last night. You did say something that I totally agree. It was watered down. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was watered down at the time. Okay, so let me tell you about this movie that I love. When I seen this movie, I never wanted to do drugs. Hence why I never done drugs. Okay, the scene that when she pulls out the razor blade and he was like, "You will kill me for it." I was like, "Oh my God!" And her, like, when she was in, see, look, what was she? When she was like, what do you call it?
In the straitjacket, going crazy in the
that when
the
they
jail
opened
cell.
it up like that, I was like traumatized from there.
How old were you when you first watched this movie?
This came out in '72. I probably didn't see it until 80, maybe. I don't know. I was really super young.
I think you were 8.
Yeah. I was super. I seen it right before The Wiz came out. I think 2 years after that.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I remember her being in the 30s, and they were making a big stink about her being
16. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So and then she did
this
when this movie launched when she was 28, and Billie D. Williams was 35.
Okay.
So now So again, you were right. They watered it down. I did not like. Now watching the mother of Billie Holiday in the new movie compared to the mother in, again, I had a different perspective, because now I seen this film and I was like, it's still my favorite film. Yeah. Because I don't care. Diana Ross did a freaking phenomenal job, and they snubbed her of that Academy Award. She still brought tears to me. And there was things that if you were listening, you can hear her pain. Now, I did not like that they made her mom a fucking weak ass mammy. I hated that. Okay, this daughter went all the way to New York to come see with you, and they don't show the backstory of how she got with her aunt something. But then when you see, maybe you see the Billie Holiday versus US, or US versus Billie Holiday, there's a little backstory of how she got into prostitution. Do you see what I'm saying? They did create the backstory of how she came to go see her mom who was working, but I'm like, why are you away from your child? Why are you away from your child? Your child is staying with your aunts. But I will say this does happen. This happens a lot, because my grandmother had 9 kids. Her first child was not by my grandfather. All the other children were. And because when they got married, I don't know what happened, she sent my aunt to go stay with her sister. So sometimes that happens. Maybe the father doesn't want the child around or something. I don't know. But I didn't understand how you're here, so she sends her over to the brothel, and she's thinking this woman is a Christian. I'm sure her mom knew. That this woman was running a brothel, but she just was under the impression that she was going to give her a cleaning job. I still like that backstory, but I hate that they made her mom so weak. What I did love is that she had a relationship with her mom where she didn't have it in the new one. That was disturbing.
See, now, for me, that's one of the things, one of my disconnects was, and I've done all the drugs, and I know lots of drug addicts and all that shit. I've been in that world. Right. And what I know is that it comes from trauma. Right. So what was a disconnect for me is because they did whitewash all of Diana Ross's trauma, I couldn't understand why she was being such a mega drug addict in that way. Whereas with the United States versus Billie Holiday, it made total sense. Made total sense why she'd do that with her body, why she'd do that with those men, because she felt that low, and it made sense. So it was hard for me to understand the depths of it with Diana Ross's version, because they did make the back. Well, like I said, they made the backstory so much nicer that it's like, do you really have to go to that extreme? And whatever. Like I said, the motive just wasn't as clear with Lady Sings the Blues as with United States. Like the motive, I understood completely. This woman's destroying herself. She's from so much pain and so much trauma. Whereas Diana Ross's version, this starlight, like I'm going to go chase Carnegie Hall and all this. And then it was like, but why are you destroying your, I asked myself, because she had a relationship with her mom, and she was protected.
That's fair assessment. So one, she was already raped before. That's why she left her aunt, because she was raped. Remember, her aunt and all her cousins went out, and she was raped. So that's already trauma. So she goes to New York, and she's like, I need to get away. I want to stay with my mom. Now she's feeling rejected. That's a trauma. Yeah. So then she goes live in a brothel, and then they're looking at her. She's scrubbing and she's cleaning. They're treating her like she thinks she's too good to be a whore. And then she's like, I got to do something because now they're talking down on me. So she becomes a whore. So there's trauma. Now, as far as the drugs, now the one thing about the new version, that was real life. Her first husband got her on. What was his name? Not Jimmy. What was her first husband's name?
Louis.
No, Louis McKay was her last husband, but I think it was that second husband. Sorry, I'm looking at these notes because I thought it was just so.
But I'm sure she was probably, even regardless of the depiction that they gave us.
I did based on the research that I got, and also the on her biography. They said that was okay. So her husband who got her on drugs was Jimmy Moreau. Okay, that was her first husband. That was that pretty boy Jimmy Moreau.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so. In the Ladies Sing the Blues, so this also scared me and made me look at white people a whole differently as well. They didn't allude, like you said, they watered it down. They didn't allude, and I did in both of those pics. Okay, in the newer version, they did put her husbands in there. I like that. Yeah. In the first one, they did not.
Nope.
Okay, so. They did. Again, this is Diana Ross, so they're still trying to keep that good girl image. And that was for the times. It makes sense. I get it. The drugs came, and I don't know if you caught this. And again, it may be because when you watch one thing and your vision is kind of skewed a little bit because you're like, oh, I'm over here. Yeah. Okay, look. So the drugs came, and I don't know if you remember, it was with, what's his name? It was with Harry. Harry put her on drugs. In the, Harry got her on drugs. Okay, so they alluded to that. So remember, she was super tired, and she was like, oh, I'm so tired. Yeah. And he came into her room, he goes, I can give you a little fix. She goes, what you do in your time, your thing is your problem. Sure. That has nothing to do with me. Yeah. And then when she was on stage performing in front of all these white people, she passed out from exhaustion. That's when he took her in and shot her up. And that is how she got on drugs in that version. And here's my disconnect. Yeah. This is what I'm saying is that prior to those scenes, she has the gumption to walk out of the whorehouse. No, I'm not doing this. I'm going to the jazz club. I'm just going to take a shot. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you go from this very motivated to this kind of weak, oh, I'll just do whatever. So that's where my disconnect was. Well, that was because she got her mom the Paul Hampton guy. The Paul Hampton, that whole thing. When it goes into that, she goes from being really strong, like, screw this, I'm going out, I'm going to find my own way. And then all of a sudden she's on stage and collapsing, and then it's like, oh. So that's where I had a disconnect because it was hard for me. I've seen the movie. Even though, like, this time I heard things I never heard. Right. She stopped being a whore, and I don't know if you made this connection. Remember, she loved her mom so much she bought her a hat. And she was dressed and she goes, oh, I'm so proud of you. I'm going to have to think, whatever the lady, the lady who owned the horse. She goes, I'm going to have to think. Every time you come over, you just look better and better. And then you see her looking very ashamed of the fact that her mom thinks she's still scrubbing, cleaning, and cooking, and her mom doesn't know she's a whore. Oh, okay. And then that's why when she went back, she was like, I quit today. I'm not going to do that. I think I missed that. I must have missed that. That was right. Yeah, that's where the disconnection. There were a lot of little subtleties. And remember, she had already went into, the first day she started cleaning, she went across the street and she went in there to see the dancing. And that's right. And she says, oh, can I be a dancer? And, even though she still was a cleaner, he's like, well, with this body, you're even if you put on a little makeup and rouge, you're not going to be here. Yeah. And then that's when she first seen Louis McKay, and she slid down the wall, and they picked her up, and then you see her giving her mom a hat. Now, all these years, or however long I don't think it was probably months, whatever. Maybe it was a year, I don't know. Her mom's thinking that she's just cooking and cleaning, so there's a shame base right there. So she's like, oh, I don't want my mom to know. And then she's like, I think that was her self-accusing, I'm just going to quit. And then she took a leap of faith. Remember, it's a fictional story of how she got into, because according to the history, it was like Count Basie and Louis Armstrong was her inspiration to get into that. So she goes in, she tries to be a dancer, and then she finds out, with the piano man, which is Richard Pryor, she can sing. And so the drugs, again, they watered it down. and I like the ruggedness of the true, because I was really hurt when I read. I was like, I never knew Louis McKay because he used to beat her. Yeah, how they shown them fighting in the newer version, that was real. They life. Used to have some really traumatic and knockout, drag out fights, but she did not want to be alone. So anyway, the beautiful thing, and I mentioned Louis McKay in this one, and Rob Morgan, the parallel, the real one, it was Rob Morgan in the new version, right? The one with Lady Sings the Blues that I do love, and I still do not want that to ever leave my mind. He loved her. He loved her so unconditionally. He loved her in that movie. Now, in the real version, not so much, maybe. I don't know. Right. I think everybody around her was unhealthy. Everybody knew she did drugs, but nobody really tried to help her get out. I did see some, with the Piano Man, he was like, when she was doing good. I mean, this guy loved her so much that he paid her bill. The love of her and the relationship between her and the Piano Man, remember when she found out her mom was dead. They kept saying, hey, are you going to go see your mom? Your mom's in the hospital. Your mom just called. She wants to know what you're going to see. And that was her pivotal point of saying, okay, I don't want to do any more drugs. And she self-submitted herself. In this one, in the newer one, I don't see her making the effort to self-submit herself. There's never. And she doesn't. She struggles throughout life. She says, I don't, and then, Andra Day says, I don't need to be put in jail. I need some help. So she's like crying for help. In Billie Holiday, Lady Sings the Blues, she says, my mom died and I'm so strung out on drugs and I couldn't even go see her, which she's like right up the street in the hospital. And her and the Piano Man are crying, and then she goes to get help. And so this man loves her so much that he proposes to her. I love the love scene because they combined the character of Jimmy Fletcher and Louis McKay into one, whereas there was a separation that I love, the distinction of the love story. There's still some love in there. Yeah. So I really enjoyed it. At the end, and I always feel like this, I still felt empty because I was like, well, what happened? She went to Carnegie Hall, she sung, and what happened afterward? Because, in the first one, fictitious. They keep doing, no, she did sing at, no, she sang at Carnegie Hall, but she soon dies after, and that's the wrap up. Yeah, she dies 2 years later. Right. But we get to see that in the new movie, and that's what I'm saying. It's that you don't get the wrap up with the Billy, or I'm sorry, Lady Sings the Blues. I think sometimes in the older, you gotta, and see the beautiful thing about older films and newer films is sometimes in the older films, they have stipulations of like, we're not going to show this. You can't show this. Like you probably aren't going to see Diana Ross take her clothes off and strip. Now I did see her, I think in a couple, maybe it might be in a Mahogany. Maybe she did a boob, like you see a little nipple or something, but they're also going to allow you to do so much in there, which this newer version was edgy. I loved it. Good. I loved it. I'm still I love Lady Sings the Blues. Every time when I hear the words, when I hear the singing, and even in comparison to Andra Day, the two versions are just so distinctly different. The tempos are different, but they both affect me. Well, and I think the reason why I really love United States versus Billie Holiday is because Andra Day, I believe, was lip singing for most of that. That's I believe so. That's Billie Holiday's real voice that we're hearing in all of those. You know, she's a real singer. She is a real singer, but I did hear that she actually lip synced for her. But I'm not 100%. We need to look into that. Yeah, let's. But her voice is definitely a lot closer to Billie Holiday. Billie Holiday has this weird high, scratchy thing going on that isn't replicated. Nobody can really replicate Billie. And that's one of the things that I really loved was that there were times when I wasn't watching. It was just the performance, like I'd be working or something, and I was just rabbled in the song because those are the songs that I know of Billie. So listening to Diana Ross, her voice is so friggin' different that I didn't love it because I love Billie Holiday. Diana Ross is much more soprano for me, so I can never. I've never been able to sing along with her or any of that, so she's not that person that I put on and belt it out with. Because Billie Holiday. Trace Chapman. I definitely want to know if she sung. I was under the impression, because I know some other people did, that she actually sings. I know that she went pretty method too. Like she's not a smoker, and she smoked for the film Andra Day. Because I really thought she sung. No, of course I don't know. She could have been method. That to me is very dangerous. A method actor is really stupid. I loved the scene when she was like, one of the things is, and in the Lady Sings the Blues is she had some abandonment issues that played like a replica of her trauma, like when she got back with McKay and they were married and he was like, I'll never leave you again. She wanted him to go on tour with her. And then when they were in California, like she's really about to go big time, get in Hollywood, start making motion pictures. And then she got that. She goes, I'm depressed. He's been gone for 2 months because he's trying to get her back on Carnegie Hall so she can get her cabaret card. And that scene where Richard Pryor, she gives her wedding ring to say, here, I know we ain't got no money. Now, this is something that this is a thing with Black people. They were always broke. They didn't have any freaking money. And these white people who are traveling with her, she's always broke. I don't know if it's because she was doing the heroin. I don't know. But why are you not broke? You're walking in a fur coat on the beach. Same thing with Andra Day. She was always broke. They were always broke. And I'm just like, why is this happening? And you know, and so the scene where they're getting high for the first time after she's been clean for a very, very long time, and how they beat him up so bad, that was like, oh, my heart broke. And she was just like, her acting was so stellar. Like she was so high and she was like scared and she wanted to help, and she was like, ooh wee, look at you. Look at you. That scene was so freaking powerful. And then how she translated into just being a little abandoned child, and he came and got her, talking about Mr. McKay. He comes in and he goes, why are the lights off? And he goes, I'm going to take you home. She goes, you're going to take me home? He goes, you're going to take me home? Yeah. And he says, she was saying, and I never heard this. And I've seen this movie a million times, but he goes, maybe you shouldn't do this anymore. She goes, no, you don't understand. Now, you don't know how it is when people are looking down at you and laughing at you, and you think, and she goes, and they think that you're a loser. She goes, if I go home now, I will think of myself as a loser. And she goes, I don't want to be that. I got to prove it to them. I got to prove it to myself that I'm not a loser. And so when those words, like I listen to words and intonations, because when someone's writing a script, there's a reason that actor is projecting that. And she's struggling with trying to win, trying to be something better. And then her heroin addiction kept bringing her 5 steps back. She go 2 steps forward and it brings her 5 steps back. And she was like, I don't want to go home. I don't want to go home. I got to do this. But the fact that he embraced her like a little girl and he was like, we're going home. She goes, we're going home. And that love, because she always had abandonment issues. And that was in 1 and 2, the newer version. So
yeah, but definitely Diana Ross has an ability to portray, like you said, that little girl, almost frailty, that came off a lot. It might be another reason why I wasn't totally in love, because I felt like Andra Day was so fucking strong as a woman to go and see Diana, crying. Ah! And I was like, okay. Yeah. Because there was a frailty there that I didn't get with Andra Day. And I didn't want it to be there, because again, I should have watched the older one first, because I was totally tainted by watching the newer version, because it was like
the discernment is not there for you. Like once it's imprinted,
once that's there, then you have your comparison. Like you had a comparison of United States to Lady Sings the Blues, and you were saying, I'm waiting for this and I'm waiting for this, where I had a comparison from the other one. So that's what's interesting. But
that's fair. I mean, sometimes when you're imprinted, it just sticks with you, and I can totally respect that. Even if I hadn't the same, when I look at movies, I look at it with a fresh mind. That's gone. Yeah. Like it's out the window. You got my full attention, and I'm like, oh, look at that acting. Oh, look at this. Look at that dress. Sure. And then I will say, in both of the films, the music, the costumes, the glamour.
Yes. Yeah, and Lady Sings the Blues is a heck of a lot more fun. It's a heck of a lot more fun. There's a little bit of comic relief. There's like really cute moments. Diana Ross has a couple of really just kind of adorable, like when she starts dancing with the dancers that are already choreographed. Adorable, really cute stuff that you don't get in the United States versus Billie Holiday. That's straight timely drama. Yeah. That is a straight drama, whereas this one was a lot more lighthearted. lighthearted, entertainment focused, which is nice. Like I said, I probably was coming into it expecting more drama, and then was like, oh wait, this isn't. So,
Wait, a fun fact. I want to mention a fun fact. So you know the part when she first does her first singing debut that night, and she's supposed to take all the money, and then McKay holds out the $20 bill. Remember, she was only supposed to make $15.
That's right. For the $20, $15 tip. That's right.
So he's like holding it, and he goes, "You gonna let my hand fall off?" And she like looks at him and takes it. Well, fun fact. In Macy Gray's video, her son Evan Ross is in there. He does the same thing.
You gonna let my arm fall off?
And he has that really
That's
raspy
funny.
But oh my God. I was like, when you see Billy D. Williams, he was so dreamy.
So
he was
dreamy.
like,
oh my God. He is.
the sex symbol, the black Clark Gable. If I had to come back, I would love to come back in the 30s and 40s because the glamour of women and the femininity was so amazing.
You can still wear the fashion. You don't have to go back there.
Yeah. not like dealing with that. You're right. But I just love that era. It was just, it was just so sexual and sensual. And I meant to do this. Now, I did read this. And I highlighted it with Natasha Lion, who played Tallulah Bankhead. Now, this I was in question, so I do the research because I'm like,
were they lovers?
I said, Lee Daniels, why did you allude that they were lovers?
Yeah,
I have a problem with that. So here's the story. Here's the scoop. So it is said that she did have some relationships.
Sure.
So that it's alluded that they had a relationship. And Tallulah did not what is the word? She didn't deny the fact that she was bisexual.
Yeah.
Okay. So she really was bisexual. She had a relationship with Greta Garbo.
Okay, nice. Okay.
And
she's born on my birthday, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Greta Garbo.
Yeah, and so and there was a couple other people they mentioned. So when she wrote her book, Tallulah, when she wrote her biography, Billie Holiday was never mentioned in it, but they were very close friends.
Okay,
but when Billie wrote her manuscript and she sent it to Tallulah's agent just so she could review it, whatever they did, they made her take whatever it was out.
Okay,
and then it just says, oh, Tallulah was a very close friend that came over for spaghetti. Okay,
interesting. And so you're making me think of, and we reviewed this. This was the first black Madam C.J. Walker.
Yes.
And remember, her daughter was very big in the lesbian scene up in Harlem. So, and that would have been right around the 1930s, right before the 1940s. Right. So to say people aren't doing... it's just people just kept it more hush hush. So I wouldn't put it past them.
I think,
it's interesting.
There was something going on.
I do too.
Now I'm so ignorant. And so I say that, and then to my LGBT community plus, don't hurt me. I just was so ignorant. I was like, did that really happen back in the day? Right. Like when I hear stuff, I'm like, no, but. It would make sense it would make sense that they keep it hush hush. And I will say, I was reading the biography for Richard Pryor. Yeah. That was traumatic. Same thing. He grew up in a brothel.
Yeah, he grew up with
his dad was an alcoholic. He was molested and raped when he was 10 years old. And he did have a relationship with Marlon Brando. So he never denied that he was bisexual.
Interesting.
His daughter, on the other hand,
Rain
said that she was like, well, he was doing drugs and back then everything was free. So that's how she came about it. But the word is, according to what I was reading, he never denied the fact that he was bisexual.
Interesting.
Yeah.
If you ever see JoJo Dancer, that's like one of the best damn movies on the planet. Yeah. So I'll watch that every day. I'm like, I love Richard Pryor.
So, this was a great comparison. What were some of your favorite scenes in the first one? The U.S. versus Billie Holiday.
Yeah, probably my favorite moment again was when they delved into the trauma, went back in time for her. That was really powerful. I love the imagery as far as the dresses, the long sleeves, which nobody realizes that was a lot of covering up your track marks. You know, that was part of the style, but that was also part of just what was going on in that day, because those drugs weren't illegal yet. So there were a lot of people doing lots of heroin, lots of cocaine. Like, cocaine was still in coffee, and Coca-Cola and stuff. So it was really fun just watching those kind of scenes. Some of them were hard to watch, right? The beatings, that was hard.
Oh, yeah.
The love scene that you spoke about with her and Jimmy, that was really powerful. So yeah, those were probably my favorites in the first one. What about you?
So mine's still that scene where she gets on the bus in that phenomenal dress, the color with the swing.
Yeah, that swinging dress. I love that dress.
And sees the lynching, and she going through
Baby's
how they
crying.
cut everything through the house, and you see everybody and all the people that's a part of her world. Amazing.
So
I
good.
love that scene. That for some reason that just stands out to me. And then she goes on stage and sings "Strange Fruit" because I was like,
that's the best scene. And that really is the creme de la creme, isn't it?
Acapella, which is why I'm trying to figure out, was that her acapella or was that like a overlay voiceover? But I believe I thought she was singing them because the tempos are not the same as the original. So I don't know, but that's a good thing. I wanted to definitely do some research.
Check it out. Yeah, because it sounded very close to Billie.
Yeah.
So if Andra did that, then double kudos to you, girl.
Yeah, I love Andra Day. You did due diligence. I hope you get an Oscar for this.
Amazing
when
work.
they showed.
I can't
I'm glad that you were able to
get
get a Golden Globe. It was well deserved. You were like unedited. You showed all of who you are, and you encompass Billie Holiday on a whole nother level.
And I can't wait to see you again. I just can't wait. I'm now a fan.
Favorite scene up in Billie Holiday.
Lady Sings the Blues. Like I said, I really love the quippy little part where she's dancing with the other dancers. That was really cute. The bus scene where she kind of starts going into Strange Fruit. That's really powerful.
That was powerful.
I love the costume again, all of the costuming, and they do the clips with Diana Ross with the white in their hair, and that was really beautiful and moving as well. And then Billy D. Anytime that he's on screen, it's kind of nice. Good. Yeah.
I think that we agree on everything on that. So let's give a final grade for both.
Okay.
Okay. So of course, U.S. versus Billie Holiday. What's your grade?
I'm giving it an A+.
Okay.
Yeah.
A++++.
Yeah, that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And for Lady Sings the Blues, I'm going to give it a B+.
She's giving it a B+. I'm still going to give it an A++++. This was like great. And thank you, Rav'n, for taking the time to do a double feature. I was super excited when I seen the previews, and I was like, oh, but you got to look at the other one. And so we found it on YouTube for free. So
you can do that too.
Yeah. So thank you so much for taking the time, Rav'n. I appreciate that. Any last minute remarks about the film?
Yeah, I'd just say, if you haven't seen these films, if you don't care about spoilers, you weirdo, then go out and watch this. This is good stuff. Like LaDios said, you can find Lady Sings the Blues on YouTube, and I believe United States versus Billie Holiday is available on Hulu. Yep. Definitely worth the charge.
Yeah. So in the meantime, in between time, I'm LaDios Muhammad, an actor with purpose.
And I'm Rav'n Moon, an actor with passion.
And remember to get up and get out and do something for yourself. We are actors from the dark side.
Hey, ho, everybody get up.